I'm officially too heavy and not powerful enough to be racing crits. Hi, I'm Connor, keen cyclist and soon to be crit racer. I love riding my bike and now it's time to actually put my money where my mouth is and try crit racing for real. Recently, I've been doing a lot of crit racing with my friends on Zwift and actually want to take it a step further by trying to actually do it in real life on a track and actually put myself up against real people. However, I'm officially too heavy and not powerful enough to be racing crits. Coming up, we're going to go on a journey from getting off the couch to actually crit racing in real life. I probably should start from the beginning and actually take you back into why I want to do this and where I come from and what do I do. Well, I'm an engineer. I'm pretty sedentary because I work from home and sit at my desk all day, which means I don't get a lot of exercise in my day job. Actually, I look to cycling as a means to get out of the house, cycle to work and actually try and move a little bit, especially as I'm now approaching 30. I only really got into cycling about 6 years ago. And I actually previously before that was one of those drivers that used to seriously disrespect cyclists and toot my horn. As you gradually move through life, I actually realized that I needed to get off my ass and find something that could take me places, keep me active whilst I'm doing it, and a hobby that I could actively enjoy and explore more places. So I got into cycling. My journey started off with actually just cycling to work, a short couple of miles to actually just get used to being on my bike and being out in traffic in around Bristol. I remember cycling to work, which was only a couple of miles away, that actually used to knacker me, and a couple of hills in there and I was done by the time I got to work. I was actually more tired when I arrived at work than I was before I left the house and realized that actually I needed to do a few more miles than just start cycling to work and back. I'm quite a competitive person, so actually I wanted to set an end goal to help motivate me to train and actually get moving and get out of the house more and actually train for something in the evenings and spend a bit more time on the bike. Bikepacking was actually one of the key things that I thought was really cool because you could get out of the house, you could go see new places, you could go with your mates, you could just chuck a couple t-shirts on your bike and just head away down to wherever you felt like and find somewhere to crash, which was quite quick, easy and relatively cheap. Over the last couple of years, I've actually done a bunch of different bikepacking adventures, such as the London to Paris route, the NC 500, recently the Wales top to bottom from Holyhead all the way down to Bristol, which actually has quite a bit of mileage in it and quite a lot of hills. So that kind of essentially built the endurance aspect of my cycling. I trained for events or bikepacking routes that I know I'd be covering 60 to 70 miles each day, and actually started building the fitness and the zone 2 endurance to get to that certain point. Then one of my friends had a stupid idea of doing the Ironman 70.3 in Zurich, Rapperswil, Switzerland last year. This really ramped my cycling up to the next notch, as well as swimming and running, and actually started to turn my competitive eye towards competitive racing in cycling. However, I hated triathlon. I absolutely despise all three sports combined together. Individually, I love every sport. I love swimming, I love cycling, and I love running. However, when you add them all together and try and stuff gels down your neck for 6 hours straight, it's a horrifying experience. The Ironman in Switzerland was 37 degrees when we did it and essentially sealed my fate on never ever doing an Ironman or any sort of triathlon ever again. So I've arrived here where we're going to go from essentially lying on my ass, not cycling that much, to getting out and getting involved in a crit race. That covers my background. So not a complete beginner, but a little bit amateurish and have a bit of base miles and can cycle relatively fast if I need to, but not for very long. Now you're probably thinking, okay, what does that actually mean? So giving the people what they want, on to the numbers. I am very, very heavy. Well, in context, cycling heavy. That means I am currently, or I started off at 96 kgs, which is actually, in cycling terms, where the goal target weight is about 70 kgs, that's pretty heavy. Yes, I know in the grand scheme of things that's not actually that bad, but in terms of cycling, when you're trying to go up a hill quite quickly when all your friends weigh 70 kgs, that actually is quite a lot. When I started doing Zwift, essentially a couple of years ago, 2-3 years ago, I had an FTP of around 2 watts per kilo. I do have some Zone 2 base miles under my belt, however, because all of the Ironman training was essentially done at Zone 2 with very little interval training above threshold. So actually all of my previous miles as endurance is really helpful in building that broad base of the pyramid that I'll need for crit racing. You're probably thinking, why do you need a broad base for crit racing? Well, considering it as a pyramid where VO2 max is the very top, you need a wide base of the pyramid so you can have a high peak. So actually diving into the data now, we can actually start looking at some of the numbers. So this is my training volume over 4 years. So as I was saying, pre-2001, I did basically nothing, maybe a couple of commutes to work, and I, was focusing on just getting to work and back, maybe covering a couple of miles on Strava. Then really randomly in 2021, when I first got Zwift, I got loads of miles in and started renovating a house, so did pretty much nothing for a couple of months. Then in September, I signed up for an Ironman with my mate, which then has that volume starting to gradually creep up. Actually, I wasn't taking it that seriously. Probably should get my ass in gear here in 2022 when I realized, yeah, this is coming quite soon, so I need to get a move on. And then you can see here, my volume increased gradually up until July, which was this mammoth of training stress score of 1,242, which was actually the Ironman, I believe. Then after the Ironman, I got really bored and didn't want to do any of that again, so I started doing nothing. And then started riding my bike throughout the winter on Zwift, and actually realized, this is quite enjoyable. Let's try and actually do some proper training so that we can actually race some proper crit events and actually be semi-decent. So zooming into my 1 year's worth of data, we are here essentially right now. It's April 2023, and over the last couple of months I've been following Trainer Road's AI program / crit race program, where they essentially give you a training program and it does a bunch of stuff and you get fitter. So looking at this, my FTP here was 235 watts, and I was about 96 kilos, so quick maths, my not so quick maths, 235 kilos divided by 96 when I was, essentially 2.4 watts per kilo. So I had increased my watts per kilo, but actually that's come down from about 2.8 watts when I was doing the Ironman. Then I retested again in March, and my new FTP there was 246 watts. And I was, in March, I weighed myself, I was on average about 92 kilos, which means I was 2.67 watts. Finally, I did an FTP test this week, and the new FTP is 254 watts, and I'm now 90 kilos, which means I have an FTP watts per kilos of 2.822222, which is very valuable, especially all the twos. A pretty mediocre FTP, not a full couch cyclist, but pretty much at the bottom end of any competitive crit racing. On Zwift, I've just graduated from Group D and now actually in the realms of Group C at the very bottom. Coming on to what my actual goal of this program is. Well, actually, I just want to enjoy a different form of cycling. I'm quite competitive, so I think the crit racing actually gives an opportunity to do that and really start punching some high numbers and go fast. So what are the actual race specific goals in the next coming weeks? Well, actually, not get dropped is the first and foremost goal, and that's probably a good place to start. I'd actually really like to boost my FTP to 3.2 watts per kilo. You're probably thinking, why? That's just kind of some random number. Well, I think it's twofold. Actually, I need to increase my wattage, threshold wattage, so I can race faster and maintain a higher watt whilst I'm actually racing, and I need to reduce my weight so I can actually go up hills fast with my mates. So why 3.2 watts per kilos? Well, that is the target goal for a sub 60 Alpe du Zwift climb on the Turbo Trainer, which is completely random, but who cares? I just like riding my bike and it's for fun. How am I going to achieve this goal? Well, as noticed, I'm using Trainer Road. I'm following their AI program, crit program, which schedules in about 3 to 4 sessions a week. Previously, I've been doing crit racing on Zwift, but I'm probably now going to have to actually just start doing crit racing every week, which we will dive into the program and what's coming up soon. I'm sticking to the program pretty well. I usually hit most of my training sessions, but I've started adding in some group rides with my friends and group rides with the local cycling club on Tuesdays and the weekends. So normally there may be a small change in the actual training program. Most importantly, I'm eating relatively clean, hence why I've lost about 6 kilos over the last couple of months, which is actually I'm pretty proud of. But the goal is try and maybe get to that 85 kg mark, and yes, not getting dropped by my friends, especially the fitter ones, is a goal. And if I can stick the knife in on them next time we're out and they don't know I've been doing all this training, that would be pretty good. Equipment, what do I have? Well, I'm actually really lucky that I have an absolute rocket of a bike, the Tarmac, Specialized Tarmac SL7. It's a beast, it's running Altegra, and yeah, it's as good of bike, it's my dream bike. I don't wish for any other bike. It's my true love, and it's the only bike I need, especially when I'm crit racing. However, I don't want to crash it. But the key takeaway from this is it's not going to be my equipment holding me back, it's going to be me. Okay, coming on to the main event, what crit races am I going to be doing? Well, tomorrow is the Castle Combe Crit Race, which is the Easter crit race, and actually there is a bunch of summer series crit races held at Castle Combe. There's also the Bath Odd Down crit series as well. I'm really lucky to be Bristol based, so that means I can get the Castle Combe stuff quite quickly, as well as the Bath stuff. So I need to really figure out what that program looks like, but for right now, it's about just getting out there, getting entered into Cat 4 and not getting dropped. I was completely new to actual cat racing with British Cycling, so I had to figure out what on earth I had to do. So it's relatively, no it's not, it's actually pretty complicated. It's not about just going and ride your bike. Well, so you have to go onto the British Cycling website. From there, you can then find an event, which is an absolute nightmare because the events organization thing is a mess. You then can join a race and enter a race. However, you have to be, first of all, a member of British Cycling, which is £70 a year for the silver membership, which you have to have if you want to score points. Then, not only that, you have to get a race license. And in order to record how many points you score, that racing license is needed if you want to try and move up the categories. I mean, I was looking at this thinking, I just want to go around the track really fast and not get dropped, and if I'm good enough, get moved up the categories. But you have to jump through those hoops. Points scoring is actually pretty key for the crit racing cat series thing. I'm probably not going to score any, but it's good to know what the target is. And essentially you can score 10 or 12 points if you come first, all the way down to 10th, and well, yeah, 10 points then. And essentially you can score points based on your positions, and you need 12 points to move up into category 3. Once you're in category 3, you cannot move down again. You're officially stuck there for life and can only go upwards towards the pro divisions. So we have a summer of racing, hopefully outside in the British sunshine. Maybe. So this is very much a semi-fat lad on a bike, on a couch, and getting up and trying to go into a crit race and not get dropped to start with, and maybe in the lower categories, come up with some good results. I now need to go stick some Aerothan latex tubes in my bike because I want to save them sweet watts possible instead of butyls. If you haven't checked it out, it's 4 watts. It's 4 easy, cheap watts. So actually, I'm off to do that now. And in the next coming series, we will keep you updated on the progress of our Couch to Crit program. See you in the next one.